Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. We're continuing our countdown to the NFL draft with our team-specific 7-round mock draft. Since today we're on day 16, which means we're hitting the Washington Commanders. A very interesting organization, to say the least. They brought in Eric Bieniemy this offseason, kind of looking like they're going to be rolling with Sam Howell. But we'll see. There's a lot that they can do. They got an interesting team. They have a lot to like. They have a lot of talent. They really just need to fill out some of the holes. And obviously, quarterback is a big question, too. They need to see something from Sam Howell. But all in all, Washington's got a lot of talent to compete. Hopefully, this draft will help put them over the top. Now, here, early on, they have a pretty average amount of picks, just like everybody. I'm thinking, it's got to be corner. In round one, and you immediately look at corner, and a lot of the top corners are gone. That's annoying if you're a Washington Commanders fan. I still think you can take Banks here because how great of an athlete he is, and that truly wouldn't surprise me. But if you want to look at some of the other positions needs, you're looking at offensive tackle. Roderick Jones isn't going to be here, and I've mocked him to several teams for this cycle, so he will not be your pick. Darnell Wright is a realistic option. I also think he could be gone, but Darnell Wright is a very, very, very realistic option. And you go in the interior. You could really take your, interior offensive lineman one with Osiris Torrance, or if it's Steve Avila, or even if it's John Michael Schmitz. Any of these guys make sense. Those are the three positions I think they're going to be looking at. I think you can never rule out, a good defensive player if they're there. But I think Washington, if anybody's going to take a shot on Deonte Banks, it's going to be then. Look, Maryland, keeping him close to home for the most part. Banks is just such a good athlete that it just almost doesn't matter. I don't think that's too early for him. Maybe a little, but at the end of the day, good cover corners do not last in the NFL draft. They simply don't. So I think getting one here is phenomenal. And to be honest, they could double dip. They could almost even triple dip. That quarterback room needs some help. One, Banks isn't necessarily going to fix it himself, but he goes a long way at getting it better and younger. Now we're going to go look at some of those positions again. Steve Avila, I don't think will be here, but if he is, that is a home run pick, and I'm just going to do it. I don't think Steve Avila is going to be there, but sometimes that's how the draft works. So I'm not going to just say that and pass on everybody. Steve Avila is phenomenal, and if this is the way the draft started for Washington, you'd have to be extremely excited because I think, sounds a little crazy, but I can kind of really argue that Steve Avila could be in the conversation for them at 16 just because they do need some interior offensive lineman help. And I know everybody loves Osiris Torrance. You don't take guards that highly, but Steve Avila is not far behind him at all. Obviously, 16's early. Would be early for him, but he's a phenomenal player, and that's just really what I'm trying to emphasize. Now, rounds 3 and on, again, I don't think they have the biggest needs in the world. They just need to fill out a lot of depth pieces. I obviously do think, they could use an offensive tackle to come in, not necessarily start, but probably start. I'm going to go ahead and give him Wanya Morris. Wanya Morris, I think the other Oklahoma offensive lineman, Anton Harrison, gets a lot of love, and as he should, but Wanya Morris is very good as well. So I really, really like this start of the draft for Washington, to be honest. Banks, Avila, and Morris is phenomenal because it not only provides you, it hits your needs, but it gives you a lot of upside. These three people have a ton of upside. And now we're looking at the board. You got your biggest needs checked off. What direction do you want to go? Obviously, I think in a tight end class like this, it wouldn't shock me if they took a tight end. Maybe they take, that's what we're going to do. Zach Kuntz, Old Dominion, another guy that just tested phenomenally well. He leaves some to be desired on tape, but the athleticism is certainly there. And you got to think, I think Eric Bieniemy is going to kind of come in and really try to put a stamp on this offense, kind of put his identity out there. And I know he didn't call plays necessarily in Kansas City all that much, but they like to use their tight ends. So I think just getting an uber athlete at that position is something he could really be vouching for. And, their Kuntz is probably the most athletic guy in the class, all things considered. Look at his RAS score, 1 of 1 if you're talking about Zach Kuntz. But again, maybe not. But I think that AB is going to have a big factor in how this draft plays out. Look, we're looking at QB, and they still could consider drafting one, if we're being honest. I don't necessarily think they will, but they certainly could. It's time to fill out some of these holes, man. I really do like this Washington team. I'm gonna look at some linebackers to the board. There's some interesting guys here. Nobody I love. Dennis here from Pittsburgh is one of my favorite underrated linebackers for sure. Let's go ahead and give him. So Buck Dennis, man, from Pittsburgh, put on a tape for him, and he can do a lot of things. I don't think he does anything great, but even if you just look at the PFF numbers, they really back up that he can do a lot. I don't think he does anything uberly great, but he's a good athlete. He can help you in the coverage game. He can help you in the run game. He's just very good. I think that linebacker room, they've taken some shots before. Nobody has really stuck yet, but I think Dennis could be another guy that kind of help mold that linebacker room and kind of help everything come together a little bit. There's some edge rushers, some defensive linemen that I think could kind of make sense for them. Defensive linemen for them isn't necessarily a need. They have, they obviously just re-signed Payne and they have Allen as well. But they can maybe keep both. I know they did just re-sign one of them. Maybe that means Jonathan Allen's out, so maybe they want to get in a guy to sit behind them and learn from them from a year. That really wouldn't surprise me. That makes a lot of sense. The safety positions too. Again, we've talked about that in a few other videos. It's just not that good this year. It's just really not. It wouldn't surprise me if he really wanted to get his hands on another receiver. Just again, because I think EB is going to have a big focus on this draft. But I'm going to go back and probably double dip in the quarterback room here. And I'm going to give him Alex Austin, just another bigger corner. He can do a lot. He can kick return. He's done a lot. He's a versatile player at Oregon State. He's even played some wide receiver and was a kick returner for them. He's just pretty electric and he's a pretty good athlete. As a corner, he has some developing to do. But I think those guys are always worth the risk, I would say. And I'm tempted to draft a quarterback a little bit too. But is a 6th-round rookie really going to make the difference for them? No, but maybe a Jake Haener, a DTR could be fun for them. I just think they're going to let Sam Howell be the guy. So I don't know if they're going to bring in a rookie and kind of cloud that judgment of him a little bit. Not that it wouldn't necessarily matter, but you never know how people are going to react. Let's go ahead and give him Jose Ramirez down here. Super underrated. I don't know why he's always so low. I could always vouch for him to go so much higher. Just a very good, uber productive player at Eastern Michigan. And when you go to smaller schools like that, you want to see players flash dominance. And boy, does Jose Ramirez do that. They just need to get some production out of their edge group. They have a good one, but injuries, just inconsistencies. They just need people to stick it together. And I think that, if people are battling injuries, if people are a little bit being inconsistent, that's where you can rely on your depth a little bit to kind of help bridge that gap. And that's where some of the issues have been. So I think that's where a guy like Jose Ramirez can really impact a football team like this. And we're looking down the board here. Some of these guys are interesting just because of, their position. I think there's some good value on some of these Kirklands and John Gans, but I'm going to go give him Gerard Clark. I talked about how they don't necessarily, like I said, they don't need a nose, really, but, you could vouch for a nose. I mean, you could have Clark, Allen, and Payne on the field at the same time. Nobody's running on that, but just for the future, I think they need a little bit. You can get a guy, come in, develop, then you might not have to pay Jonathan Allen, or you can let him walk. You can do whatever you want to do. I think Jonathan Allen's a phenomenal player, but it's just a little bit more from a realistic approach. You need some development. Here it's the 7th round, and I really think Clark is probably BPA there. But I really, really, really do like this draft for Washington a lot. Banks, Avila, Morris, Kuntz, even Dennis. That's a phenomenal start. These first 4 picks especially, very, very, very good. You get an uber athlete at corner. You get 2 really, honestly, Avila, some people's interior offensive lineman. 1 is very close to Torrance for me. Wanya Morris, very underrated offensive lineman prospect. Kuntz, everybody knows how athletic he is. And then you're filling in some of that depth like I talked about. Washington, I feel like when teams are going through these new phases, these new coaching cycles and all this stuff, you never know what they're gonna do. But I think this is honestly one of the more feels realistic possible outcomes for Washington. And that's going to wrap up our Washington Commanders team-specific 7-round mock draft. We're getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. And if you want to stay up to date with all things NFL draft news and make sure you don't miss your team-specific 7-round mock draft, make sure you follow along on all TWSN social media accounts. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again here on the TWSN YouTube channel soon.